The Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. I'm Kris Randazzo and joining me tonight is fellow COVID compatriot Dan Ryan.
You know, I was thinking about it the other day, Kris, and it occurs to me, you really have to hand it to blind prostitutes.
Why, Dan?
No, that's just the joke, Kris.
I thought there was going to be like a...
No, there's no follow-up. You have to hand it to blind prostitutes.
Because they can't see.
I've been waiting all week for that. Anyway.
Well, now that the worst of COVID seems to have passed for the two of us, it seemed like a good time to talk about the games we like to play when we're sick. Keep that box of tissues handy. Not for the blind prostitutes, because the Stone Age Gamer Podcast starts now.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Hello, everyone. This is episode 407. It is the week of April 22nd, 2022. And how you doing, Dan? How you feeling? You feeling better?
Yeah, shockingly, I think.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? Because, like, you're sick, and then you're like, oh, man, I think I got the vid. That's shitty. I should get tested. And then you do, in fact, have the vid. And then you're like, oh, well, now that it's confirmed, I'm going to feel real bad for like a day or two. And then get a little bit better. And then I'm going to feel bad again. And then just be kind of awful for like a week. And then like one day, just gone. Is how it went for me anyway. Like I woke up this past Thursday. And I think I was like, I looked at Tiff before she went to work and I was like, I think I'm good. I think that's over. Sweet. And she was like, all right, well, follow me into work so we can build a pop-up at the doggy daycare. I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess I'll go right back to work. But yeah, I don't know. I think I think I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm also basically back to normal minus the cough. There's still a bit of a cough hanging around, which is, difficult.
That sucks for you. Because I didn't stop vaping the entire time I had COVID. I didn't take a break. I didn't lessen. I just lived my normal shitty life all day. The way that I just damage myself on a daily basis. I like for real. And I thought about like, I should probably lessen this a little bit. And I didn't. And there's no lingering cough, no nothing. I mean, my nose is still kind of sinusy and all over the place, but I think this actually has to do more with the weather now than anything else, because like 2 days ago it was 85 degrees and it was a high of like 48 today. It's been absurd these last couple of days, and it's raining out.
Yeah,
all that stuff. So like,
pretty gross today. I was in shorts the other day.
Yeah,
now I'm back in pants.
Well, I went. Yeah, like Thursday morning, I went over to Tiff's work, so we could build she works at a doggy daycare, right? And they hired her on to kind of get the other employees in gear, somewhat, because they had this carport. Right, because a doggy daycare, for those of you who don't know, is a facility that has a bunch of like open spaces where you drop your dog off and they run and they play and they socialize and they, there's some humans out there in the yard with the dogs, but there's like, I don't know, when I got there, she was like, be prepared because when you get to work, there's going to be like 80 dogs out there. And you're like, that sounds like a lot of dogs. And you get there. And that's a lot of dogs. Like, it is so it's so much more than what you're thinking in you're like, no, 80 dogs. It's a crazy amount of dogs. It's a crazy amount of dogs. But like, so get out there, and I had to go build this carport thing that she bought because there's no shade out in the yards. The lady who works at the or who runs this place bought this big carport, and they told the employees there to put it together for the dogs and the humans out in the yard, and a couple of the dudes that were there were like, no, we're not going to do that. And then they didn't. And that is wild to me. Like, have you ever just told your boss, no? Like, I'm just not going to do it. And expected that was cool.
To still be employed?
Yeah.
No, I can't say that I have.
Fucking liberty that is. So anyway, so fucking Tiff calls me on Wednesday and she's like, can you come build this goddamn thing tomorrow? I'm tired of hearing about it. I've been here for 2 weeks and I'm already sick of hearing about the fucking carport. Yeah, I'll be there. And it took me like 25 minutes to put this thing up. I was like, I got to go in and do these guys' jobs. So the lady who owns the place bought me dinner. It's like, all right.
Well, that's pretty good.
But isn't that weird? Like,
that's extremely weird. I frequently seem to hear about like people in jobs. Really, when I say people in jobs, it's like, you know.
You mean young people?
I mean people in politics. Like,
no, that
happens all the time. And
yeah,
it's like, man, in any job I've ever had, if I did anything like that, I wouldn't still have a job.
No, just wouldn't. Just be like, get the fuck out. You don't get to tell me career.
Bye.
That's not how that works. But yeah, these dudes were like, nah, just don't want to. Not for a good reason. Not because like, I got a bad back, or like my arm's broken, or like my legs don't work, or something like, I don't know, something that would prevent them from doing manual fucking labor. I was like, all right.
Other than they just don't fucking want to.
They just didn't want to.
That is wild, impressive.
Man. Yeah, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. So anyway, but yeah, so short story long, I'm feeling, kind of right as rain.
Nice.
I didn't even have a cookie. It's a fucking Matrix joke.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. The Oracle said that. All right.
Yeah, she did. Oh, that movie's so good.
I haven't seen that new one yet.
Oh, I haven't either, because it really went downhill after that first one. It's really, it is a precipitous drop.
My dad said the new one was fine.
Oh, I wanted it to be so much more than fine.
Yeah, in either direction. Like,
yeah,
I would have sought out seeing it more if it were either like super awful or like really good. But it's fine.
It's really weird to me that movie came out. It came out in December, and I'm on the internet a fair bit, as I know you are. I mean, you're taking your social media hiatus, but you're on the internet a fair bit for work and for life and all of those things.
Yeah,
and
I saw the Thor trailer today.
The Thor trailer was great. I didn't see anything about that Matrix movie.
It really came and went.
Okay. And like, just no, like, yes, this is a return to form. The Wachowskis have brought this back. Like, what? Fucking just nothing. It's weird.
Yeah, like I remember seeing it hyped up beforehand, and then it came out, and like that was it. There was nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta watch it at some point.
Yeah, me too.
It was a weird little sidetrack to get to the Matrix. I did.
I mean, maybe that'll be our list. Maybe that'll be our letter M on the Theater Near You podcast, because oh boy, we just did letter K, and that was a movie that we.
Yeah, I heard, you didn't do Kill la Kill, or in that anime? I don't know.
I think that's an anime. No, we all vote, so everyone brings one K movie to the table. I recommended King of Kong. I can't remember what Paul recommended, but Sean picked King Solomon's Mine, which Paul and I had never heard of before. And like, wow, that movie was really bad.
Like, was this really, a movie that Sean liked and was like, you guys got to see this?
It's a movie he liked when he was a kid, but he hasn't seen it since he was a kid. And it's like, it is a direct response to Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is like a studio saw Raiders of the Lost Ark and said, we need to do that. We need to do exactly that. So we have the rights to this King Solomon's Mine book series or whatever. So let's just adapt one of those. And they did a horrible job. I checked halfway through to see if Mystery Science Theater had done this movie. It was that level of like, come on, this they must have. They've never done it, probably because of they couldn't afford it. It's John Rhys Davies is the villain, and Sharon Stone is like the girl character, and then
like actual people.
Oh yeah. There were names attached to it, and clearly money was put into it, but not enough.
Not enough or too much, one of the two.
And like there was an original movie back in the 50s that I think is relatively well regarded. And then this was from 1985, and then in 2004, I think it was 2004, they made it into a TV miniseries starring Patrick Swayze.
Oh, that does not sound great.
Yeah, Paul accidentally started watching that and was like, wait a minute, am I watching the wrong thing?
Because I don't want to have to watch more of this than I need to.
Like, and Paul's really good at watching things he doesn't like, and even he ducked out of that one. Like an hour or so in, he was like, I can't watch this anymore. This is awful. So,
wow.
The 1985 one wasn't great, but we made it all the way through, and it did provide some real good laughs and lots of racial slurs. It was a rough one, but
we watched a couple movies over this past week. I did watch. I made Katie sit down. She came down and she was talking about some newer Adult Swim cartoon, right?
Okay,
that had gone into other Adult Swim cartoon universes. I can't remember which one it was. But she was like, they went into this one, and Moral Oral, and Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and that's not funny at all. And I was like, how very fucking dare you? Sit down right now, because we are going to watch an episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And like, that show really doesn't work unless you watch a chunk of it. Like... Mm-hmm. You really had Aqua Teen kind of grows on you. But I made her watch the Moonanites, the first Moonanites episode, and and she was like, "All right, this is okay. I see." She was like, "Out of context, that was I didn't understand what was happening, and I still don't get it, but I see where you're coming from. This is kind of funny." And then we were just kind of playing around on HBO Max or whatever the Adult Swim stuff's on. And, I was like, this is really a good service for you, by the way, like just talking to her, like if you want to put it on your iPad or what have you, it's got all the Studio Ghibli stuff and it's got, a bunch of the DC stuff. And she was like, oh yeah, totally. And I was like, it's got all these Turner Classic movies that were old before I was even born. They were already old. And she was like, oh, like what? And I clicked on it, and 2001: A Space Odyssey was there. And I was like, oh, I fucking love this movie. She's like, is that the one with Hal? And I was like, yeah, it's also got the weirdest opening sequence in any movie ever. And she was like, okay, well, let's watch it. I was like, what? You're 12 and you want to watch 2001? Okay. I mean, don't threaten me with a good time. I love this movie.
I mean, you did just sell it pretty well, so...
Yeah, that's fair. So we sat down and watched, me and my 12-year-old watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, and she had no idea what the hell was happening the whole time, and I had to explain it when we got to the end, and she was just like, what the fuck is with this space baby and this acid trip that he took to get here? I don't understand. There were monkeys in the beginning. Like, what is even happening? She was properly terrified of Hal, though, which made me happy, because that is the scare. Have you ever seen 2001, Chris?
I'm not entirely sure if I have. Like, I know it. I just don't know if I've ever actually sat and watched the entire movie.
you know pieces of it, right? Like, you know, the howl, and I'm sorry, I can't
exactly
do that, David, and you know, all of that stuff, and
I honestly can't tell you if I've seen the movie for sure.
Ah, man, I love that movie so much, and like it's totally not for everybody, and I get that, but like Katie had a really good line at the beginning, because the opening sequence, the first like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, is monkeys. They're just actors in costumes
and stuff.
Yeah, and then the monolith shows up, and the one, you know, the monolith is the alien race that is advancing human civilization and all that stuff. Like that, there's a lot of backstory that was left out intentionally by Kubrick because he assumed you read the book. But like, once the monkey started grabbing the bone and starts beating like all the other stuff, Katie goes, "What is this monkey business that is happening on this television?" I was like, that is brilliant. I love this kid.
Nicely done.
Yeah, it was very, very well done. So we watched that, and then Tiff and I watched the two oh fuck, what's his name? The Kenneth Branagh. Sorry, it was you. I didn't give you any context to help me. I just had to get there on my own. What's his name, Chris? Tell me, with no information to go on. We watched the two Hercule Poirot Kenneth Branagh films, Death on the Nile and Murder on the Orient Express. And they were so good. Are you a Kenneth Branagh guy?
I'm not. I mean, I don't dislike Kenneth Branagh, but I don't
love
actively seek him out. I mean, you know, I liked his Hamlet. Saw that in high school, and
he's great.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I've seen him in where I've thought, ew. Like,
ew, Kenneth Branagh, yuck.
No thanks.
God damn it, Gilderoy Lockhart, get away. Have you seen either Death on the Nile or Murder on the Orient Express?
No, I can't say that I have.
You really, I feel like that is a movie that both you and Karen would be like, yeah, that was a good time. I enjoyed it. You should definitely watch them.
All right.
Murder on the Orient Express comes first technically in the storyline.
Okay.
It's like a recurring character. Anyway. Sorry, this has gotten very rambling this week. I feel that's how this week is going to go, Chris, because we haven't felt normal enough to have a regular podcast. So now it's just going to be word salad. Let's go with salad instead of vomit. It's much more appetizing.
Is it?
No, it's not. Salad's fucking gross.
That's not always true. I like me a good salad.
Not
now.
I never am like, I could go for a salad. And I feel like that says a lot about me.
Go for a great big tossed salad, but I don't feel like preparing one.
Nah, I'll fucking toss a salad, but I don't, you know.
You're totally missing the state joke.
No, I got it. I was just trying to go for the more gross one.
I do. So we got an email that I thought we should address. It was an anonymous email, and it was in response to not our last episode, but the episode before, because we record so far in advance.
Yeah.
It's from an anonymous podcast listener. Subject in all caps: mute button. Please use your mute buttons when you cough. It's like you're coughing in our ears. You got COVID. I get it. Coughing during a podcast is gross and unprofessional. Mute.
Yeah, well, we don't get fucking paid, so this is unprofessional.
I mean, yes, I am honored that you've considered us professional enough in the first place to call out our unprofessional behavior. So
sure.
And you're not entirely wrong. Anonymous listener, us coughing into the microphone is probably not something that anyone wants to listen to. We don't necessarily want to be doing it, but I can at least speak to my end that on my recording situation here, I don't have a mute button. I can mute my conversation with Dan, but that's not what's being recorded. It's a separate audio track, and I just don't have a regular mute button. So I'm trying my best to cough away from the microphone tonight, and goodness, I'm sorry.
Oh, mute button, Kris.
I'm trying to cough away from the microphone, and
you tell me when you're going to cough,
Evan
and I'll hit my mute button.
That'll help. I think Evan's going to do his best to try and edit around it whenever possible. So on one hand, I do genuinely apologize for anyone that we have bothered with our coughing. But on the other hand, we're not mean. If you wanted to talk to us, you didn't have to send an angry anonymous email. You could have just let us know who you are and said, guys, come on, please stop. Or please make some sort of effort because the coughing is grossing me out. To just, there's no need to be mean. That's all I had. I just wanted to address it. I don't think I would have appreciated a different angle at yelling at us, but at the same token, you're not entirely wrong. I'm sorry for coughing in your ear, whoever you are.
I mean, look, yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where, none of us get paid, to do this, right? Like I joke, like you do work for Stone Age Gamer, but they don't pay you for the podcast.
Yeah. The podcast is completely just us doing our thing.
This is a thing that we do, for free every week, that we have done for free, every week, for getting closer to a decade than not. Evan doesn't get paid to edit. We were both very sick. Tough. Honestly, I mean, if that's your complaint, then just don't listen to that episode, man. That's cool. It's totally fine. I do have a mute button here. But here's the thing about being sick, right? Especially with COVID, is that the cough just kind of creeps up on you. It's not like a thing where that you're about to cough. I mute when have you ever heard me sneeze on the podcast? No. You know why? Sneezes ain't fucking surprising. They're just not. I mute when I vape most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, because I am aware of when I'm putting my hand near my mouth. However, when you're sick with an upper respiratory infection and still trying to provide entertainment to the masses, cough kind of sneaks up on you. I feel like that's kind of a weird thing to write an all caps email about, but I hope you feel better that you have gotten it off your chest, now that we have gotten COVID out of our chests. The coughing should be less.
Yeah, I mean, I never want to make anybody sorry, upset with the show.
It's doing it so much now.
It's exactly what you're saying. It's like it just sneaks up on you. I'm trying to talk and it's coming out as coughs, and it's not like I can just. If I just stopped every time I felt like I was going to cough right now, then I just wouldn't be doing the podcast, and I feel I'd rather do the show than not. So here we are. But I wanted to address it. I didn't think, much like the guy who was really angry with us on YouTube, I didn't necessarily agree with the way that he brought his concerns to our attention, but at the same time, he did have some valid points, and this is a valid point as well that I wanted to address, and that is all. That is all.
All right.
And now back to our regular scheduled program.
Video games, what you been playing?
Besides movies, what have you been doing?
Just a lot of Puzzle and Dragons. Just trying to clear some of the newer stuff that has come out recently, which has been a lot of fun. They've been really pushing rainbow teams lately, which I enjoy playing. I know not everybody enjoys playing Rainbow, where you have to match all the colors all of the time. But I was talking a couple weeks ago about Atelier, one of the new leaders, who is very, very difficult to play, but very rewarding to play. And there's been just a general push for more Rainbow leaders that can clear harder content. Because naturally, right, it makes sense if you dilute your team through all the various colors, then your damage output is going to be less because you've got less of the orbs that you're trying to match. All that makes sense. So they've done some things to increase the damage potential of rainbow leaders and make them viable, and that's been very, very fun for me anyway. Plus, I traded for a few of the Ultraman cards that I wanted because I had terrible rolling luck in that machine, and the rates aren't great on that anyway, but I was like way under the expected return for the amount of stones that I rolled in that machine to get anything. But I traded for Ultraman because it's Ultraman and I have to have it. It would be like having a He-Man thing and be like, I don't need it. It's just not a thing that's going to happen. So it's Ultraman. I got him. He's fun to play. I like it. And then just playing a shit ton of the show. This year's version, they've been dropping content really, really quickly this year. Like collections and new programs and new stuff. And with the way that they changed the innings programs, like the main XP path that has like all the rewards in it, it's different than last year. They kind of broke them up over a 9-month period and they called them innings, right? And then you had extra innings after the season was over and all that. They've changed it to be, some of them are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter, but they've just been putting out a ton of content to get through them. And it's been really, really fun. Like they put in a bunch of the new City Connect jerseys that Nike put out, and you had to do different missions with those. And I haven't loved all of the City Connect jerseys that they've put out, but the one they put out for the Washington Nationals is just absolutely gorgeous. Because what do you know? Do you know the foliage that is very, very popular in Washington, D.C.? Right? What's the big deal every year? Do you know this, Kris? Wow, really?
There are particular leaves in Washington, D.C. that are...
You go down and see the cherry trees, the cherry blossoms.
Is that a thing people do?
Oh my God, you don't know that? God, you unpatriotic fuck you. Yes, it's a big deal. Every year it attracts like hundreds of thousands of people to Washington, D.C. Anyway, it's a thing. And the jerseys that they made for the City Connect are like cherry blossoms, and they're this really dark gray, and there were some cool missions to do with those, and then you get to use those in the game, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun with it though. The game, what they've added to it this year, minus the commentary that has just got awful, has been really good. I like the way they're doing the programs this year. And I also played some Mega Man last week because we did our Mega Man ranking episode, and I was like, I'm gonna jump in and play a couple Mega Man games. So I played a little bit of 2, like nothing to completion, just like I'm gonna go in and do a couple bosses in 2 and like 3 and fire up a powered up emulator, and that game still saw, like, we were absolutely correct. The game's so good.
I similarly jumped in and started playing Mega Man 11 again.
Nice.
Just to kind of make sure that I wasn't completely out of line. And thus far, no, I was not completely out of line. I'm only 2 Robot Masters in, because the stages are pretty long, and
yeah,
the second one in the boss order that I followed online is Acid Man stage, which can go fuck itself. I did Blockman stage, took me a few tries to beat Blockman and like remember his pattern and figure out how to get through it and whatnot.
Right.
Blockman stage is great. Acid Man stage, I really like the music in that stage, and it's got a lot of good ideas in it, but it's also a lot of the spikes.
Oh yeah, hate the spikes.
You're underwater with currents, and you have to do these just absolute. There's zero room for error. Like, there is absolutely no margin for error. You have to be 100% flawless going through these sections where you're trying to like very precisely jump through all these instant death spikes, and like there's just way too much of it in that stage. Outside of that though, and then I finally got to the Acid Man fight and was like, Oh yeah, kick the crap out of this guy because I have Pac-Man's power. Yeah, that game's great. That game's really, really good, and it's like its graphics are so deceptively good. Like it doesn't look great at like when you're just looking at it. It's really easy to take what it does for granted, and then every now and then, like in Acid Man stage, there's a mini boss halfway through, and man, when he blows up, the explosion is just incredible looking.
It's one of those things that you really have to see in motion to get it.
Yeah, it's quite a game. It's a really, really good modern Mega Man game. And that gear, the double gear system's really cool. I love that game. Aside from that, we finished Kirby. We're still in the post game stuff, which is really good. The post game stuff's awesome. It's the stages are also pretty long. They kind of like each world is its own like super long stage that's been remixed, and you have to find all these like little like hidden bits throughout.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, those have been really fun. And we're still unlocking new weapons and stuff, like new abilities, which is fun. The game's just fun. It's just damn fun. The fishing game is so ridiculous. It's got a really fun little fishing mini game where you have to like basically you have to press certain buttons as they show up on screen, and if you do it enough, then you can catch like this giant legendary goldfish, which is hilarious. Kirby's so happy when he catches a fish.
Love a good legendary goldfish.
Who doesn't? He's just the happiest damn thing. I love Kirby so. I just unlocked like the ultimate hammer power, which he just walks around with 2 mallets and this evil mask on his face and a mallet in each hand. It's just like Jesus, overkill. Played a little bit of Ori still. It's still very good. Just haven't really had the kids are on spring break, so
yeah.
Finding time to do that hasn't been super easy. But I think we've decided we're just gonna throw caution to the wind and show John Jurassic Park because he's been so into dinosaurs. He came down. I was messing with my game shelves earlier, and he came down and saw my copy of Jurassic Park for Sega CD.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a Jurassic Park video game? I'm like, dude, first off, this one's terrible. So we'll just
there's so many Jurassic Park video games, first of all.
So we played a little bit of the Genesis one, which I remember playing at my friend Greg's house a bunch, and it's not great.
I like that one.
I like it, but it's like its controls are really kind of brutal. Like it's not very easy to play. It just doesn't feel good to play.
Yeah,
we played as the Raptor because of course, play as the Raptor.
Of course.
And John thought it was really neat. It was fun. I was having fun with it. Once I got the hang of it, it's just like the controls in that one are a bit rough. But other than that, it's a cool ass game. I was very happy to play that one again. I'd like to put a little bit more time into it. And on the flip side, earlier today we played some of the Super Nintendo one, which is the one that I played a ton of as a kid.
Yeah.
I loved the Super Nintendo game. And like 15 minutes into it, I'm like, how the hell did I ever beat this game? I've died like 100 times.
Oh, that game's so hard.
That game is really,
I feel like
really
the Genesis
hard.
version's easier.
Oh, for sure. Well, they're completely different games. Like,
yeah. No, sure, but like
vaguely similar.
But the Genesis one is like pretty easy to get through. Or not. Well, I mean,
I think once you get the hang of it, like I could see myself
enough.
getting through that one. Like,
yeah,
I spent a lot of time trying to master Jurassic Park for Super Nintendo when I was a kid, and like I didn't have a Genesis back then, so I didn't spend a lot of time. I just spent time playing it over at my friend Greg's house, which was
right
a good time. Geez, who developed the Sega one? I feel like because it starts off with the T-Rex saying Sega, so I kind of felt like it was an internal joint. Park Genesis. Give me some information. Not Operation Genesis. Sega Genesis. God damn it. All right. Jurassic Park for Sega Genesis was developed by Blue Sky.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. Oh, good Lord. That Doug Tenaple guy was an artist on that game. Wow. That guy's apparently quite the scumbag. Let's see. Blue Sky Software. Why do I know that name? They did the Lynx version of Ninja Gaiden. Let's see. Other Genesis stuff. Vector Man 1 and 2, that's where I know him from, the Vector Man games. And Sports Talk Football. Yeah, they did a bunch of wacky stuff. Evil Zone on PlayStation. My goodness. Ooh. And then they folded in 2001. So that was cool, and it got me thinking, like, man, wouldn't it be cool if, kind of the way they're doing this Ninja Turtles thing, if somebody put together like a Jurassic Park classic game compilation?
That would be cool.
I mean, if we can get the Capcom Aladdin game on the same collection as the Genesis Aladdin game, we can. I'm sure Ocean Software could, kick in for their NES and Super NES versions of Jurassic Park, because they're totally unique games. Like, Super Nintendo game is half first-person shooter, half a top-down action game, and the Genesis games are all side-scrollers. So it's like,
yeah.
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to love. Speaking of that Turtles collection, did you see the collector's edition?
I did. Man, it's a little rich for me, but I mean, it's definitely worth it.
It's not worth it for me. I'm getting the physical edition. No, I'm not getting the special edition. That's what, $150?
$150, yeah.
No, thanks. I mean, the diorama looking thing is super cool and all, but like, what else is there? The art book's neat.
The art book's really cool. The cards are really cool.
The cards are cool. You like cards more than I do.
I do.
The poster's neat, but it's all Eastman art, and I have that hard out with Eastman stuff. Like,
yeah,
I love his writing. I don't love his artwork. So, plus I would have nowhere to put it. So I'm good. I'm good with just the regular edition, which makes me very happy that they didn't make that into something specifically that I wanted. Or
they weren't like, what is everything we could put in here to cost Kris money?
This is interesting. So I've been talking to everybody in the Discord today about reorganizing my my game shelves.
Yeah.
I put last week I decided I really wanted to get because I had a bunch of different platforms out on these display shelves out on my the floor, and then in the closet I had the rest of them, and I was like, this is silly. I should just try to get all of my NES out and all of my Super NES out, and like the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, those boxes are just such a different shape. They don't go on these shelves. So I'm going to yank those, and I'm going to yank Master System because it's ugly no matter where you put it. And as much as I love Master System, there's just no way to make those games look nice on a shelf.
Sure.
So I'm going to put those aside. I'm going to find another home for the Game Boy Advance games and stuff, which I think I have that kind of sort of figured out. But I'm just going to get those off the floor, and I'm going to get all of my Super Nintendo and NES boxed out on these shelves. And it turned, I love it. It made me so very happy, but it kind of snowballed into this whole project of like organizing the NES games in particular. Like, well, how should I go about doing it? I wanted to do them alphabetized within, I changed it to straight alphabetical order. And that drove me crazy because like, I really liked the way all the Nintendo published stuff looked right next to each other because they have similar, box designs, and I thought they lined up really nice. So then I did that, and then I did everything by publisher earlier. So I alphabetized like, Acclaim, and then like HAL and Brotobund, and like I did all those in order, and that looked kind of neat, but it still was a bit of a mess. So that was the last I spoke to everybody in the Discord about it. This afternoon, I came to a different conclusion. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to keep the Nintendo stuff up top and then straight alphabetize everything else. And that worked out so much better. So I yanked Mega Man 6 from the Nintendo published stuff because, it just makes more sense to have one Mega Man 1 through 6 next to each other. The only ones that are like really out of order are within the Nintendo published stuff. Like Zoda's Revenge is not next to Star Tropics anymore. Tetris 2 is not next to Tetris because they were in different versions of Nintendo's things. But outside of that, like, all 3 Double Dragons are together, all 6 Mega Mans are together. And it really, it looks way nicer with them all pushed out. I was talking about this before the show. So I found out that VHS tapes laid flat are the perfect spacers for Billy bookshelves, which is IKEA Billy bookshelves, or what I have my games on. So I went on a Facebook Marketplace and I found for $15 a guy that was selling 90 just random VHS tapes. So I bought all them. I picked them up from him today, and I lined the back of all my shelves with them, so all the games are pushed up maybe like an inch away from the edge of the shelf now. It looks so much better, and I have all the amiibo taken off that shelf, and so I have them moving them off to a whole different project which I'm working on. But the reason I brought that up is because I'm looking at the Discord right now, and Chronodin said I'm reorganizing my own game shelf, not nearly as impressive. Oh please. Any game shelf is impressive if there's games.
Oh, that's not true. Mine is sad. It's got 6 Mega Man games on it. That's what's on my game shelf.
That's impressive.
I mean, is it though?
The 6 NES Mega Man games? A lot of people would like very much to have those.
Yeah.
So he says, but I have a Witcher 3 and Last Story problem. Xenoblade and Luigi are for size comparison. So what he's got here is the looks like the special edition of Last Story on Wii, and then the complete edition of Witcher 3 on Switch, and they are beefy boxes as opposed to standard size ones. He says, so the question is alphabetical with the rest, but sticking out like the freaks they are, or shuffle them to the beginning or end of a section. I say personally, I shuffle those things off to their own sections, or what I tend to do is if those boxes have regular boxes inside of them, I will take the regular size boxes out of that packaging, put that on the shelf, and then keep the special edition stuff like in my closet. Like I have the Super Mario for Wii, I have the Super Mario All-Stars, I have the Kirby Anniversary Collection. I think I have one or two other ones, like the GameCube. I have like Odama and whatnot. I have those boxes in my closet, but the cases for those games are on the shelf lined up, like Donkey Kong Jungle Beat and stuff like that, because I like the way those look on the shelf. And so that's how I did that. I've never seen this version of Last Story. I have Last Story, but it's just, a standard edition. This is really, really pretty cover on that, though. I didn't know that had a limited edition in the US because it's ESRB, so that's pretty cool. It's a neat game.
Is it?
Sorry. I've played a very tiny bit of it. I thought it was neat. I would love to play more of it, but I don't think it did anywhere near any level of success, so I don't think it's ever going to get ported, which is a bummer. But
like I had back in the day, because I've never had my games out like that because I'm a monster and I threw away all the boxes.
You are a monster.
But I did have a very, very impressive DVD collection. I mean, I still have it, but who the fuck watches DVDs anymore, you fucking caveman? So I had all of those alphabetized when I had them because there was just so much of it. Like at the time that my DVDs were out, I think the amount that I had out there was close to 1,000. And it was just like, I can't do anything fun with this because there's just too much. And if I want to watch Man Bites Dog, I don't want to remember who, like, am I doing it by the studio and which studio? There's so many studios that release, but you know what I mean? Like, just go through this crazy thing. So it was like, nah, they're just all going... they're all going in alphabetical order, except for the weird plastic and cardboard cases. You remember those on DVDs?
Yeah, where they had like the little clip on the side that you'd open up. Yeah, little like plastic flap. Yeah, those guys.
Those were separate because they didn't look right with the other ones, but everything else was just alphabetical. What I would personally do, probably with your situation with your games, is I would have kept sets together, like the black Nintendo boxes, the silver Konami boxes, and then like all of the Mega Man games, all of the, Double Dragon, whatever, games with multiple sequels. And then apart from that, I would have done it by color.
Well, see, I tried that, and here's where the problem came into play, specifically with the Konami ones. You'd think those would look really good lined up, but they actually don't. because there's the only thing uniform about them is the color. Everything else, like they have the Konami logo, like so the whatever logo for the game is centered, and they're all very different sizes, and then the Konami logo is up like above them in a different place for every game. So they're not uniform like at all. They look like a mess. You do. The Capcom was a kind of a similar situation. Like the Capcom games have like 3 or 4 different styles. Like they had the old school style with the weird grid pattern, like the Mega Man 1 box, right?
Yeah.
But there was 2 different flavors of that. And then they moved on to the purple stuff, which was basically that through to the end. But there was like purple ones with a thick Capcom logo, a medium Capcom logo, and a thin Capcom logo. So like there was just no good way to do that. And then you have like other sets like Double Dragon 1 was Trade West, but 2 and 3 were Acclaim, which is like, okay, that's super fun. So even arranging them by color kind of became difficult because so many of them are like, well, this is just a picture on the side, not a solid color. The solid color stuff is mostly the Nintendo published stuff, which looks great all together. So everything just going straight alphabetical after that seems to be what's making me happy. Right now I'm looking at trying to finish the set of I want to get boxes for every Nintendo published title on NES and Super NES. That's what I'm working on now. And I'm not that far off. I've been doing for Nintendo Force I had to write about where the next issue is all about sports games on Nintendo, like specifically Nintendo related sports games. And so I got to write about skiing and snowboarding. And one of the things I wrote about a bunch was the game Tommy Moe's Winter Extreme Skiing and Snowboarding for Super NES, which is a game that's always kind of fascinated me, but I never really spent any time playing. But it's one that I knew about because it was heavily featured in Nintendo's Play It Loud campaigns. And I remember always seeing it on there, like the pamphlets and stuff, and the that you get from Toys R Us and the commercials for the Play It Loud stuff, because the game looked amazing. And I wound up doing a little research on the game itself, and the game is decent enough to play if a little repetitive, but the visuals are like nuts because they did Mode 7, but unlike F-Zero or Super Mario Kart, it has hills. Like, it goes up and down. Like, they use some really interesting technical tricks to make Mode 7 work with altitude changes. Yeah. Which is really wild. And, you know, it being a snowboarding game and everything being white was like a huge help in that, but it's a very visually exceptional thing. So, like, I want to grab that one. Even though that wasn't published by Nintendo, it was heavily featured by them. And then outside of that, I need boxes for goodness, Dreamland 3, Tetris Attack, Super Tennis, Super Soccer, and that's it for Super Nintendo, published by Nintendo. And then I'm actually missing a bunch of the games themselves published by Nintendo. Oh, actually, a bunch. I say 4. Both of the Ken Griffey games, NHL Stanley Cup, and NCAA basketball. And then that's every Nintendo published game for Super Nintendo boxed. Because I was thinking of doing the same thing I did with the NES games, where I took all the Nintendo published stuff, put them up top. I kind of want to do the same thing for the Super Nintendo games. Right. And this just bummed me out while you were talking earlier. I was like, all right, I want to look into, because I used to get it, the repro box isn't the right word, because they were boxes that never existed. For like, you know, a small size box for Mario Paint and Earthbound, like, so that I can have those games up on my shelf, but not in like the giant boxes. And I used to get them from Uncle Tusk, which was a really interesting website that has all these like weird boxes for games that never existed. Like, it's where I got my Mario Duck Hunt World Class Track Meet box from. It's where I got my Super Scope 6 box from. So I was going to go there because there was a World Class Track Meet individual box on his site. I was like, it's about time I ordered that sucker. But his site's gone. Aw. Super bummer. And like, he hasn't posted anything on social media in ages. So, like, do I send a message? Like, I don't know what to do.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find some sort of, you know, contact. I'm sure I have an email from him. I'll like shoot an email and be like, hey, I want to buy some stuff. You still around?
You good, dude?
You all right?
You alive?
'Cause I actually wanted to see if I could order replacement boxes for the ones that I ordered from him, because like the Nintendo published games that he made things for, like the Super Scope and the Mario Paint.
Yeah.
The Nintendo logo's in like the wrong place. Like, man, if I could just get these with that logo exactly where it belongs on the other Nintendo published stuff, I'd be happy as a clam. But that's just me being a loon. But yeah, I guess that just about wraps that up. You have anything else you want to tackle before we get down to business? There's a rumor that Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance are coming to Switch Online.
Is there? That's exciting.
Yeah, apparently there's an official emulator out there running these games on Switch. So it seems like that's only a matter of time. There was a official artwork released for that Sonic collection that was announced and then completely disappeared off the face of the earth.
Completely disappeared, yeah.
I can't even remember what it's called now, but it's the one that has Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles on it. Like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm into that.
I did see I saw a rumor today that Sony is apparently in talks to acquire From Software, which we had discussed back in a couple episodes ago, a couple months ago now, I guess.
Wow, after Elden Ring too, right?
Yeah, but they're in talks, and usually with those kinds of rumors, like once something starts to come out, it's like, oh yeah, we've been talking about this for months. One of those smoke fire things.
That's a brutal one. That would suck to have those games be PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of Xbox fans that like playing that. And I can't see Sony going the Microsoft route of being like, yeah, no, we can make money publishing this on other hardware. Like,
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I feel like
the show was
mandated, right? The show is like MLB is like, you need to put this on every platform.
Yeah, I mean, it was. They can't mandate it, but it was mandated. Yeah, I mean, it was. They were like, we really, really want you to do this.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, if Sony's going to drop the money on From Software, they're going to be like, you want to play the new Elden Ring? You need to own a PlayStation. The end.
That does seem much more Sony to be like, you need to own our shit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an acquisition that fits, like it seems to feel right. I hate when they, like I still don't think Double Fine feels like a Microsoft game studio. It just doesn't feel that way to me. But
then neither does Rare.
Neither does Rare. It just doesn't. Yeah. It just it feels weird. But From Software being Sony exclusive, like as annoying as that is,
I don't know. I feel like those Souls games are real popular on Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, they were, but wasn't the first one, Demon Souls, wasn't that PlayStation exclusive?
Yeah, it's definitely more PlayStation than Xbox, but it's like kind of, I don't know.
It's
gross.
My stance on this. I don't want to see anybody exclusive. I think it's all stupid.
I like Nintendo's approach. They bought land.
Yeah. I mean, that's way more valuable at the end of the day. Like land. You need it. It's just one of those things. Like, we're not making any more of it. Unless you're in Dubai,
unless you're Lex Luthor.
You might. Kevin Spacey. Such mixed feelings on that guy. God, like, am I allowed to still like his movies? I don't know. Has it been long enough? Are we allowed to talk about Kevin Spacey again?
I don't know, man.
I'm not sure, Chris. I don't know.
All I do know is that it's time for us to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the things we do to make ourselves feel better when we're sick. I had a lot of fun coming up with this list, so it's going to be a hoot to talk about. Sorry again for the coughing. You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from geekade.com. Stick around. And now, here's a quick look at some of the other original content available now from our partners and Geekade.com.
First up, as you may have heard, there's a new Sonic the Hedgehog movie in the world. And if the internet is to be believed, and really, would it lie to us, it's the single greatest thing to ever happen to video game movies. That is, of course, until the Jason Momoa Minecraft project hits.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
Jason
though.
Minecraft.
Jason Minecraft. I just really hope they put him in the Steve outfit. I just want to see Jason Momoa walking around with a pickaxe in the teal shirt and blue pants. Anyway, there's no way in heck it's just another vapid Hollywood cookie-cutter children's movie with a bunch of Sonic references pasted on top, right?
No.
There couldn't possibly be more outdated flossing, could there?
No. They wouldn't. They wouldn't.
They might. Thankfully, Ryan and Andy have seen the movie with their own eyeballs, so they can tell us for sure. They also closed the book on Generation Zero and open a brand new Kirby adventure. Catch all the action in Weekend Rental Episode 123, The Gamers Knuckle Up.
Yeah, I'm probably going to wind up seeing that Sonic movie with John.
I loved the first one.
I don't know that I loved the first one. I
loved it.
Enjoyed the first one. We watched it again for family movie night like last week or the week before. And it's like, you know, it's got good stuff in it. It is an entertaining little movie, but it is also like super cookie cutter kids movie. God, the freaking flossing. Like, wow, they really shoehorned that in there. And like it really just always felt to me like they're really just kind of like slathering these Sonic references on top of it. Like, man, when that movie starts and like you got the Hyper Potions music playing in the background and he's running around in Green Hills, it's like, wow, this is like the Green Hill Zone, and it's like, wow, this is magic right here. This is really cool. And then it's like James Marsden's a cop, and oh, okay, all right.
I loved it.
The whole Sonic is in our world kind of a thing. So, from what I've come to understand, the sequel is very much more of that. But also,
it's a movie so good that Jim fuck Carrey decided he did not need to make films anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly how that went. The movie was so good, he decided to top out on that.
So I cannot. Man on the Moon, poppycock, I say. Sonic 2.
Sonic 2.
That's my swan song.
Oh, boy. Next, the Ninja Gaiden Trilogy for NES ranks among the most beloved series ever to grace the console. Well, the first two do at least. That's only if you can see past the rage-inducing bird attacks, that is.
Oh, I fucking hate those birds.
Those birds. And the bats. The bats are bad too, but the birds. Three health. Every single bird attack.
Every time. Oh, man.
But one thing that isn't up for debate is the gloriousness of the game's various soundtracks. That is why I decided to blow a bunch of money I don't have on the limited run reissue of the Ninja Gaiden soundtracks on vinyl. What's in the box? Was it worth the expense and the wait time? Find out in Stone Age Gaming limited run Ninja Gaiden soundtrack vinyl box set unboxing on the Stone Age Gamer YouTube channel.
You got through all of that. That was impressive.
Yeah, then I messed up the word YouTube.
Yeah, on the TubeU. On the TubeU. Finally, the YouTube. Do you like comic books?
No.
No, of course you do. How fucking dare you? Do you like pirates?
Yar.
Some serious
I'm 3 episodes into Our Flag Means Death. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Well, first off, we ain't even got a flag. Men? Oh, that show's really good. How could you not? Do you like anthology-style comic books that are related to pirates?
Yes.
Well, then, do I have a book for you, Kris? Tales of Cape Fear is a project run by our near and, I'll say dear friends, Angie Fernot and our intrepid editor, Evan Goldsteinberg, along with some other folks. Very Jewish. Goldsteinberg of its.
Goldsteinberg of Itzenstein.
the producers, along with some other folks we don't know, but who are probably good folks, we assume. Every issue tells a set of self-contained stories from various writers and artistes, and every issue is guaranteed good time for people who like good things. Learn all about it at talesofcapefear.com, and when you do, tell them I sent you. It won't do you a lick of good, but I do like getting credit for things.
For all this and more from us and our partners, be sure to keep your eyes on geekade.com.
From the Jewish Appreciation Society.
We're back, and we've been sick for a while, so we're going to talk about the things that we do to keep ourselves happy on a sick day. Like imagining we actually had a sick day, which we don't get because we're parents.
Adults.
Adults get sick days. Parents do
they?
not.
Oh.
Adults can have sick days from time to time. You know, if you don't have a dependent, then theoretically, if you really wanted to, you could take a sick day.
That sounds awesome.
It does. Why do we have kids?
I don't know.
So, what do you like to do, Dan? This was Tiff's idea, right?
Yeah, this was Tiff's idea because I was kind of lamenting the fact that I had a week of work scheduled to be off, which was last week, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. The kids are on spring break this week. But I have a week off before the kids are, so Tiff started her job and the kids are going to school. And for the first time in 13 years, I'm going to get to be home by myself. Like, still with all of these goddamn dogs, but like no other humans in the house. And this is going to be great. And then I got COVID. And then because I got COVID, the kids couldn't go to school. So no, I didn't get sick days because I still had to make sure that they couldn't go to school, but they still had to sign on virtually. And so I had to yell at them to do that all day. So I didn't get to take any sick days. The last time I was like really legitimately sick was when we lived in Texas. And I was in bed for like 3 days. And that was, I finished being sick, just to give you a time frame, I finished being sick the week before the episode of Game of Thrones came out with the Viper versus the Mountain.
Wow. That was Pedro Pascal's introduction to the world.
Yeah. Oh my God. And that episode, I mean, crazy. And I had not watched any of Game of Thrones up until that point. I had not watched any of it. So I sat in bed for 3 days and I caught up to Game of Thrones. And it was like 3.5 seasons. And I'm like out of one bloodshot eye watching the Red Wedding like, oh my God, how did I avoid spoilers for this? This is absurd. Somebody should have warned me. I am not ready. But when I was a kid, what I used to do was I would sit at home and I would wrap myself in a blanket in my bed and I would watch He-Man cartoons. Like original Masters of the Universe He-Man cartoons. Because they were either just on TV all the time or I had, a VCR. Like I had a VCR TV combo thing in my bedroom. Mm-hmm. And I had a ton of like Masters of the Universe tapes. So that was my comfort food when I was a kid. And as I've gotten older, on times when I'm like not feeling great, that is still my first go-to, like even above video games. But I do have some games that I like to play as well. But like the number one thing is to just be under a bunch of like heavy blankets. I have this one particular blanket that my grandmother knitted when I was a kid. It's the biggest blanket in the history of blankets. I don't know why she knitted it for a baby. It was like I think what it was that I was born a week late, and it was like she had worked on the blanket up until my due date, and then I was a week late, so she just kept working on the blanket for like another week. And like it's just this fucking absurdly huge blanket. But it's the best fucking blanket in the world. I love it to pieces. So I wrap up in that, and like number one thing is watching old He-Man cartoons.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a similar one for myself before we get to actual video games. Sorry again. My as far as like comfort food to go to, I'm feeling like crap, it's ramen noodles, like instant ramen. Not good ramen noodles like the Maruchan
right
instant ramen.
Creamy chicken?
No, regular chicken.
Chicken?
Not into the creamy.
Okay.
No. Chicken, beef, or shrimp. Those are all winners for me. And Mystery Science Theater 3000. That's my comfort food TV show when I'm like, okay, like when I was dying of COVID a couple weeks ago, I crawled into my bed upstairs and I marathoned some classic MST3K episodes, specifically like the pre-Sci-Fi Channel era, like the old Comedy Central stuff, like very specifically Joel episodes, and any episodes that still have TV's Frank and Dr. Forrester on them are pretty good by me. I like the Mike episodes as well, especially with Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank. But after that, when it was Mike and Pearl and Professor Bobo and Brain Guy, they were still good. I just didn't really like the host segments as much as the riffs. Whereas like there was a very specific feel to those to those older episodes with the host segments and stuff that just puts me at peace. That and the sound of old movies is another one of those things that really puts my mind at ease. That or old commercials. I like going on YouTube and like just saying like, all right, give me 2 hours of like Atari commercials or something.
Yeah.
And like, God, that just makes me feel so much better. Just listening to old commercials for old video game systems. Like it just fills me with so much happiness and heartwarming nostalgia of like how different everything was then, and reminding me of it's anything to really remind you of a simpler time, which is like that's it's very easy to feel stressed about everything when you're sick. Like I can't do anything. I'm sick. I'm
just useless.
I'm useless. So let me just try to put myself into a mentally more simplistic place. And MST3K and old video game commercials do that for me.
I like that. I find watching commercials to be somewhat chaotic because they're like so short, you know what I mean? But I totally understand that. As far as food goes, I'm with you on the ramen, but more specifically tonkatsu ramen, which is pork bone broth ramen.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's so fucking salty. It's the best thing ever. Anyway, before we get all like gross about ramen, because I will fucking get gross about tonkatsu. Games are an interesting thing when you're sick, right? Because depending on the level of sickness, you don't want to get too involved in something that, like, I'm not going to play a fighting game when I'm sick, right? There's just too much going on. So what I like to do, one of the ones that I go back to the most often now, and since it came out, and since I first played it at your apartment in Brooklyn, has been Katamari Damacy.
Oh, it's a great one.
There is just something so perfect about, like, I just feel like shit, but I'm just going to roll around and pick up shit, and this amazing soundtrack is going to play in the background, and I'm engaged and I'm kind of awake, and it's keeping me somewhat focused on something other than how awful I feel. But it's just so simple and joyful. And that's really, really high up on my list of go-to games when I'm sick.
Nice. That's a good pick. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and it can be, I think what's nice about it too is any of the versions. It doesn't matter. Like mobile versions of Katamari, the fucking Switch, PlayStation 3, 4, 5, 2, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. They're all great.
I've always been, very specific to the first one on PlayStation 2, and now
sure,
the re-release of the first one. But I love all Katamari because what's not to love? It's Katamari.
It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful and simple, and I love it.
It is. It is a delightful game. I like to keep things even around that level of simplicity, with the exception of one comfort food game that I like to lay back on is Mega Man 3 for NES. I just know the game so well. It doesn't stress me out to play it at all. Like I know it's a hard game, but I played it so much. I have it so memorized. It's not hard for me anymore. Like,
right.
There's nothing really all that stressful for me to pull off. It's just fun. But if I'm sticking with NES on a sick day, one of the things I do like to do is just go through all the black box NES games.
Mm-hmm.
I really do like keeping it super simple and being like, all right, I'm gonna play like a couple rounds of Wrecking Crew, some Balloon Fight, maybe mess with Clue Land until I get frustrated, that kind of stuff. Like, I really like those black box NES games, even the bad ones like Urban Champion and Soccer and stuff. Like, there's a certain charm to like that level of simplicity that I'm really drawn to when I'm sick. So if I'm firing up an NES, it's Mega Man 3 and black box games. And I have another category that's like the actual ultimate sick day situation, but that's going to be a whole conversation. So back
see, and for me on the NES, it is the original Legend of Zelda, but not the whole game. Just like the first couple of dungeons.
Yeah.
I just like to go in and do the first couple of dungeons. Like, I know I'm not going through and trying to like beat the entire game. I'm just going to jump in here and like, oh, look at this dragon. I love this dragon. I'm just going to walk around a little bit. And very similarly to Link to the Past as well. I'll find myself jumping into that and just going through the first little bit of it. You know, not trying to play through the whole thing, not really caring about how far I get. Just, I'm going to jump into this and play for a little while. And when I'm not feeling great anymore, it's not distracting me enough, like, I'll just turn it off. I think that kind of works a lot for me, of games that I've finished enough times and know well enough to where I don't feel like, I have to get to this particular part of this game. Like, no, I don't need to prove anything in Link to the Past any longer. You know,
original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 definitely fit in that black box NES era, because they technically were, even though they weren't.
Right. I'm so comfortable with that game at this point that I can jump in. And usually it's when I'm feeling sick, it's usually more the Legend of Zelda more than a Link to the Past. Just because it's more of like that, even like you were saying, it takes you back to that even simpler time, right? Of like, I am a kid and leave me the hell alone.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I love the first Legend of Zelda. Yeah, just the sound of turning that game on, like that. Yeah, that title screen, that sort of NES flute type sound, like. That title screen is so wonderful.
It is.
Fills me with very specific memories. Same with the Super Mario 1. Start turning that game on, like, especially playing it on a CRT.
Yeah.
Like, really just feeling like, yeah. that's the business right there.
This is the good stuff. Like, it kind of puts you at ease, right?
Yeah. Like, man, talk about a simpler time. That was the simplest of times. Like, there's just nothing quite being sick and like figuring out Punch Out or something. Like, just good times. Well, the ultimate for me, really my very favorite thing to do, is to bust out my Atari 2600 and play all the games that I played most when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The 2600 Junior was my very first game console, and I have such an intense love for that platform. Even just this today, in the last couple of days, Ferg finally put out a new episode of the 2600 Game of Game podcast. And
it's about time, Ferg.
Just listening to that has really put such a smile on my face. Like, I mean, I love listening to his podcast for a number of reasons, like the goofy jokes and stuff. Like,
yeah,
he had a Law and Order reference in there with that just, there was some mysterious orange feet in the instruction manual, and then he had the Law and Order sound played. made me laugh out loud. But just like listening to him talk about the way this game worked and the sound effects, because he puts all the sound effects for the games in there too. Like, yeah, Atari 2600 fills my heart with so much love and joy, because they're so simple. But they were such a source of imagination for me when I was a kid. So like, Missile Command is a big one. Missile Command was one of my favorites as a kid, and my sister was always better at it than me. And I just love the sound of that game, the rhythm of whenever you beat a stage, your leftover missiles getting counted up, and then your leftover cities getting counted up. There's a specific cadence to that like is stuck in my head forever, and just like, the feeling of that joystick in your hand and everything, the sound of the rubber creaking as you're turning the joystick around is so just wonderfully nostalgic. But Missile Command's a big one. Asteroids is another big one. The 2600 version of Asteroids is my favorite version. I didn't grow up playing that game in the arcades. I experienced that for the first time on 2600. So that's the definitive version to me. I love the vector graphics on the arcade game, of course, because the vector graphics are amazing. But those like brightly colored asteroids that playing in the background, like, man, that game is good. What a great port of that game. It really, really plays the part so well, and it looks and sounds so very distinct, and it just gets the job done in such a marvelous way. I love that game. Great artwork too. Yeah, no, that's kind of where your mind goes, right? Like, I'm a kid, I'm sick, like, especially for men, right? As guys, when we get sick, we tend to turn in, a lot of us, not all of us, but we tend to turn into gigantic fucking babies. Somebody take care of me, like that kind of shit, So anything that really draws you back there. I think the ultimate one for me, and it's weird because it is a game that can get stressful, but I just let it end and start over again, and it's always Tetris. It's always the original Tetris. That's a good one. There's just something because it's weird. You almost want to get into a point where you can either do one of two things, right? I'm either going to turn my mind off, or I'm just going to zone out and like be completely sucked into this thing. And Tetris always does that for me, right? Of like, I'm just here and I'm just existing, and the only thing I can even think about right now is just how to make boxes and how to put these things together, but with no pressure. And no pressure Tetris is just one of the best things in the world. I've been playing that game what feels like my whole life at this point. Oh yeah. It's been around for a while. It's just been around so long, and more specifically the Game Boy version of Tetris. I know there are better versions of Tetris out there, but when I was a little kid and I was sick in bed, Tetris was the game that I would fire up, because I just always loved it so much. I loved the music in Tetris. I loved just the way it looked on that screen. So
being able to pop that into the to the SP that I have with me at all times. With like, I don't think Tetris has come out of there in 20 years at this point. You know, if the thing's even been out for, has it been out for 20 years? Am I crazy?
1989.
The SP, no, the Game Boy Advance SP.
Oh, the
when did
SP?
that come out?
Goodness, I'm not sure.
I feel like it
GBA
was 20
SP.
years ago.
When did the SP launch? It was in North America, March 2003.
Yeah, well,
So 19 years.
almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that system is still going strong, and still playing Tetris, man. And that's the one. Like, I watch put some He-Man cartoons on, have my Game Boy, and be wrapped up in a blanket, just fucking feeling awful about myself, but not caring because I've got those things going on.
Nice. Well, I mean, I definitely have more 2600 games to go through.
Oh, sure. Go. Yeah.
Let's see. Midnight Magic is one of my just all-time favorite 2600 games. It's a pinball game, and it has the most remarkably well-animated spinner in the middle, which is weird for a 2600 game. But the sound of that game running, it's like, I remember Video Pinball was a favorite of mine, mostly because of the box art. It's my favorite box art for the whole platform. Video Pinball's box is incredible.
Yeah.
But the game itself, the flippers always felt so weird to me because they don't look like flippers. They look like these weird bendy things. Like the board fills up the screen horizontally, which is so strange for a pinball game. Midnight Magic seems so much more like a real pinball table to me, and it has so many great sound effects and stuff, and it's really rewarding to play. So yeah, I love that game. I think it looks great. It's a blast to play. California Games is another great one. It's my favorite version of California Games is the 2600 one. The surfing looks so cool. I've never been very good at it, but that half pipe wave that they have on the, not half pipe isn't the one I'm looking for, but that wave that they have for the 2600 effect is just extraordinarily cool. The hacky sack is really fun to play, but it's really all about the BMX. The BMX in California Games for 2600 is a blast to play. It is so much fun. The Pac-Man games on 2600, I mean, I get the original Pac-Man is a really crap conversion, and it,
sure,
you know, I understand its history, that it went a long way with making people lose confidence in video games in the US market, but at the same time, I had no connection to Pac-Man in the arcade, so I didn't know the difference. I still think that game sounds super awesome, and it's pretty ugly, but it's still pretty fun to play. I still love going back to Atari 2600 Pac-Man just to hear it, you know, just those very specific sounds of that game are like, they just fill me with good memories. But you know, Ms. Pac-Man just beats the heck out of it in every single direction. Like, just like the arcade version, Ms. Pac-Man 2600 is like, that's a really, really good conversion of Ms. Pac-Man, and it plays extremely well in the 2600. Really does a good job of translating to being, you know, horizontal screen instead of vertical screen. Like, it is a wonderful home conversion. It's got very, very well done box art, and it's just a magical game. But unlike the arcades, though, really the superior Pac-Man game on 2600 is Junior Pac-Man.
Right.
Arcade version of Junior Pac-Man is pretty cool, but the 2600 version of Junior Pac-Man is incredible. It's a like super awesome technical showpiece for the system. It moves really quickly. It's got the screen scrolling vertically and very smoothly while you play. It is extraordinary. It's a really, 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 really good game. It's one of my favorite Pac-Man games on any platform. And it's never been re-released. You know, it's that 26.
That's wild.
None of the 2600 versions of Pac-Man they're just on the 2600. They've never been put in any compilations as far as I know. Maybe they've been on one of those at-games flashback systems, maybe. I don't know. I've never seen them there, but I never really paid a whole lot of attention to those. But man, Junior Pac-Man 2600 is that's a big thumbs up. Berserk is another 2600 game I like to go back to a lot. I didn't play the arcade game at all until I was way older. I just had experience with the 2600 one, reading the instruction manual about the evil auto, the bouncing smiley face. Like, what the hell? That's really weird.
So wild.
It is such a weird game, but it's another one of those. It's just like the animation of you getting zapped when you walk into a wall or shoot a robot or something. Man, there's something about the sound of that game in particular that just I feel it in my heart right now. Just the sound of those lasers, like that. Man, I spent so much time with that game. What a cool video game that was. If I have somebody around, if there's a chance that I have somebody around, I'll always play combat. But you have to have that game's a multiplayer only.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Haunted House is great.
So good though.
That was one of the first games I ever beat. Because it's an Atari game that you can finish.
Yeah.
But it's Haunted House, great stuff. Never been all that great at it. Really good at getting caught by the bats and the ghosts and whatnot, especially on the harder difficulty levels and stuff. 2600 version of Space Invaders is the best version of Space Invaders, like classic. I'll play the 2600 version over the original arcade version any day of the week. It's got so many wacky variations, like the invisible ship, where you can't tell where your ship is until you shoot, like the one where everything's moving around, like the three blocker things are like shifting back and forth, and the invaders bullets come down in like weird patterns and stuff, or even just the fat ship that makes it like really difficult for you to get around because like your ship is so like gigantic, it's really easy to get hit. Oh, it's a masterpiece. It's such a good game. I love that game so much. Defender's another good one for 2600. And these are like, seriously, these are just like, if I'm going to play my 2600, I'm going to grab all these games. Like,
right.
I don't have a Harmony cart, and I have a ton of 2600 games. And like, I love discovering new ones, but these are the ones that I go to. Like when I'm sick or when I'm going to get out my 2600, these are the games that I go to. Like this stack I pick up and I bring to me, like pole positions in there, sort of, but I'll only play that for a minute or two. Dig Dug's a great port for 2600. I forgot to write that one down. Dig Dug's really good on 2600. Defender, I suck awful at the arcade version of Defender. Like the two buttons to move your ship around, I'm not good at it at all. But the 2600 version of Defender, it was such a fascinating game. It was so much more complex than the other space games, right? You have asteroids, shoot the asteroids. Missile Command, shoot the missiles. Defender, It's like, all right, so you got these people, and these ships are going to come at you with these different patterns, and they're going to try and abduct those people, and when they do, they turn them into, like, evil ships that are super aggressive, and you got to, like, shoot them down after they get kidnapped, and then you can catch them and bring them down to the ground and like, bring them to safety. Like, what a complex thing Defender was. It's so good. Oh my God, it's so much fun to play on the 2600. It's got the laser blasting sound is so good on that, and it's like really effective because the way they programmed it, like your ship disappears every time you shoot, so that they could dedicate all the graphical power to making your laser look awesome. And it was, oh my God, what a game.
That game's outstanding.
Yeah, a great artwork too. Let's see, Pitfall 1 and 2 are just, I've never beaten either of them. Pitfall in particular is like, that's just some real comfort food right there. Especially when you're not trying to beat it, you're just like, I just want to jump on a vine and go, like I just want to have a good time. And then you turn on Pitfall 2, and it's like, oh my God, what a marvel on the 2600. Like, Activision was so good on that platform, especially their later stuff like that. The port of Kung Fu Master on 2600 is like amazing. And
I don't know that I've ever played it.
really made that game work on 2600. It's like the port of Commando is really good too, but it's like I would never choose to play that over like the NES version or something. Whereas Kung Fu Master's like, it's really playable. It's nowhere near as good as the NES version for obvious reasons, but it's like, it's really solid. It is very, very playable. Like, really, really good. In terms of like shooters like Space Invaders, I always love gravitating towards another Activision one, Mega Mania. That's a really, really good 2600 game. It's really fast paced. It doesn't have the situation where if the aliens make it to the bottom of the screen, you die. In fact, there's a lot of them that are these patterns where they loop through the bottom of the screen to come back on top, and like you just have to avoid them when they get close to you. That's a really, really fun game. Kaboom is pretty good too. I've never liked Kaboom as much as most people do, but I do like occasionally going back to it.
It's fun.
It's fun. I'm just like, it's not one that I go back to that often. If I'm going to play a ridiculous paddle game, I'm going to play Circus Atari. Yeah, I love Circus Atari with this, especially when you die and your little stick figure's legs and limbs are all like moving around like you just killed this poor guy. What a great animation. It is one of my favorite video game animations of all time. And then last but not least, and this was my guilty pleasure when we did our guilty pleasure games episode eons and eons ago, is Journey Escape. It's a stupid game based on the band Journey. But boy, if I didn't have a ton of fun with that game, and like that music, I didn't know Don't Stop Believin' as a little kid. I didn't know the song. So like when I got a little bit older and I heard Don't Stop Believin' on the radio, I'm like, I know the Atari game. Like, that's
why did they make that into a song?
Holy crap, I get it now. Journey is a band. Oh boy, they're a real band. Look at that. I'm reading the instruction manual like it's some made up thing. Like, no, they're a real band. Oh no. Ridiculous. So that's my like short list of 2600 games. Like that's, if I'm gonna pull out my 2600 and hook it up, those are the games that the carts that I'm grabbing next to me that I'm gonna play through. Just put a little bit of time in to every single one of those, and then I'll start futzing around with other stuff. Like I'll throw in Pele Soccer and be like, ovals.
Ovals.
And yeah, it's really, the 2600 is my ultimate comfort food in terms of video games. I'll always be a Nintendo guy, but the 2600 is where games started for me. And God, those games make me feel so much better. I just love them.
It's a good way to be, man.
Yeah. You got anything else?
No, I'm pretty simple when I'm sick. I don't go too crazy. I'm not grabbing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, well, that's the thing. Like, I could play all those 2600 games in like less than the time it would take me to play through Mega Man 3.
Right.
Each one of those games is like, could be as short as a 5-minute play session before I yank it and put another game card in. But and then I'll go back to it and over and over again. It's like, that's the whole experience with the 2600 is, swapping carts, it's that's part of the thing, is playing it for a couple of minutes at a time. Like if you really want to get in there and do high scores and stuff, that's a whole other experience, and that's a really good one. But if I'm just going for the quick, make myself feel better when I'm not feeling well, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing each of those games for a couple of minutes and moving on to the next. And every single time I've changed games, you sit and look at the cartridge and just look at that artwork and or pull out the old catalog and look through that. God, good times.
Yeah, I do like that, looking through the old catalogs and stuff and like, all this cool shit.
Brings me so very much joy. Well, that's it. That's what I like to do when I'm sick. And I've really wanted to do that lately. I have not had time to hook up my 2600. My 7800 I've actually sent in for repairs. My I have an AV modded out 7800, but there's something wrong with the power regulation in it. It gets warm and the sound is super topped out. Like, it is way louder than everything else that I connect to the television. So like, there's something wrong with the power regulation in there. Because when I had it modded, the guy did something about the power supply.
Right.
Changed it into something more standardized, and it just doesn't quite run right. So I sent it in to Stone Age Gamer to fix. I actually sent in my ColecoVision, which stopped powering up, my Turbo Duo, which has never worked since I got it. I bought it off a customer for super cheap at FuncoLand ages ago because it didn't work. And my 7800. So I sent in those 3 systems that they're going to try and fix up for me, which is super exciting because Stone Age Gamer does console repairs and mods and stuff. And it's something we're trying to promote a bit more. So, and I just recently did a video about the Saturn builder thing. They're trying to do all these builder programs on the site where you can like go in and say, all right, I want to build a Dreamcast. So I want it to have mode and I want it to have a neon green shell or some craziness like that. And they're trying to build the actual programming on the site to do it for different platforms too. I think GameCube's what they're working on next. So you can build your own ultimate GameCube, and that's kind of neat. Because with with the world being the way it is and EverDrives, flash cards being harder to get, we're finding different directions to do stuff in. So I think the console mod stuff is awesome. I wish I could do it myself.
I know it's just, I'm sure you could, but you just get so nervous about it, right? Like, I don't want to fuck it up.
Like, I can't wrap my head around like so much of the stuff. I try to watch videos of people doing mods, and they're talking about like, changing capacitors and desoldering things and stuff. And I look at it like, I feel like I could do this, but I have this innate misunderstanding of all, like, I can't look at a circuit board and say, well, that's what that does, and that's what that does.
That makes sense. Yeah, I get that.
I've never been able to like really be able to read something like that, and
it's just not your thing.
It's just not. I've always wished that it was, because I've always been very fascinated by it. Like, I used to always open up my 2600 when I was a kid and try and fix it. And I can do simple repairs.
Sure.
But that's actually why I sent the ColecoVision in, because I looked up a video. I was like, all right, I can probably handle the simple repair here, because I was doing a video on the Col USB, which is apparently they didn't have this problem in other regions, but the American power supply for ColecoVision is a literal brick. It is the size of an actual brick. Like, it is at least twice as large as like the NES power brick. It is insane. Yeah. And it's like, it's all on where it plugs in. It's not like in the middle and then you have like like an Xbox 360 brick or something like that. It's all like, here's this massive thing that you have to plug into your wall, and it's stupid. So there's this thing, I forget what company makes it.
Is that why we call them bricks?
I think it is. There's a thing we carry at Stone Age Gamer called the Col USB, where it powers your a ColecoVision with just a regular like phone charger, like a regular USB power supply. So it simplifies that like by a whole lot, which is wonderful. So I was doing a video on that, and I was getting a lot of interference with my ColecoVision, and I looked it up and like, oh, this is a very common thing. Just, be careful when you open it up, because there's other things in there that can very easily go awry. So I was super careful when I opened it up. I followed the video to the best of my ability. I put the thing back together, and I couldn't get it to turn on. Oh. It was like the power, there's something with the power switch itself, and that was what the problem was. Like, the power switch inside ColecoVisions is, I think, innately faulty. Like, it's one of those things that's just always going to fail over time. Yeah. So I was messing with that to try to get it on right, and I fucked something up. So I hope they can fix it for me, because it's not a system I have a spare of, but sure. I feel like it should be a simple fix. So fingers crossed. But
well, all right then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wonder if that's where we got a brick from. I found out recently, and the reason I ask is because I found out a couple weeks ago. Do you know why we call things in movies Easter eggs?
I feel like I did. I feel like I knew this at some point.
In the original not the made-for-TV version that has come out recently, but the original Rocky Horror Picture Show. When they were filming the movie on Easter, they had an Easter egg hunt, and they did not find them all. And if you watch through Rocky Horror Picture Show, there are literal Easter eggs in the movie.
Well, that's awesome. I did not know that.
And that is why we call them Easter eggs, because they were actually Easter eggs.
The more you know.
I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, that's all I got.
Easter eggs. There we go. just taking that one down. All right, yeah. Well, that's all I got too. So that's going to be our show. Thanks for listening, everybody. Join us next time when Dan and I will be tackling the April 10, 20, 30, 40, featuring games like Demon Attack for 2600, A Link to the Past for Super NES, and more. Good games.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
Just those two.
Just those two.
Yeah.
We're on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, the Geekade Patreon, which helps keep this show running week after week, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by Banjo Guy Ollie. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making the show listenable for all you folks. We'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That's it, everybody. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.
Because she's blind, Kris. That's why you got to hand it to her.